Hi, thank you for joining us. Can you tell everybody who you are and the name of your company and what you do?
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This is very exciting for me. My name is Ilona Anderson. I'm the founding attorney at Carpe Diem Law Firm, and I specialize in employment law and trademarks.
You've been in the legal world, like how long have you had your own firm?
I've been practicing law for 19 years, which sounds crazy when it comes out when I say it, but yeah.
You started when you were 4. Yeah. How long have you had your own practice?
So there's a kind of a loaded or layered answer to this question. I initially went out on my own in 2012 when I was pregnant with my first child. I was working for a law firm where it was very traditional, kind of old boys club. This was pre-COVID, pre-flexible work arrangements. And I thought, I didn't want to put my career on hold, but I also wanted to be there for my child and bond with my baby and be able to breastfeed. So I went to talk to my boss and said, is there anything we could work out initially, maybe some kind of a flex arrangement, and maybe I could work from home a couple of days a week initially. And his response was, we don't want to set that precedent. Even though we think you can handle it, we don't want to set that precedent because others will ask. And the next day I gave my notice. I thought,
Good for you.
it's better if I'm going to start something of my own, better to do it while the baby's still in the belly. So I gave my notice when I was 5 months pregnant and then went out on my own and then subsequently met the person who then became my law partner for the next 10 years. So for 10 years, I was in a law firm partnership. We built a boutique employee rights law firm together. And then that relationship was no longer aligned. So I decided to exit that partnership and went truly on my own and launched Carpe Diem Law Firm last year.
Oh, congratulations. You mentioned being in an old boys law firm. And I'm in the legal industry as well. I've been in this industry for over 20 years. And I know years ago it was very male driven. This is male dominated industry. Do you still feel that that's the way this industry is, especially here in South Florida, or do you think that it's changed? And do you feel that that has caused you to maybe prove yourself a little bit more or work a little harder? Has that been a setback?
I don't think it's been a setback. And I've never really looked at myself as a victim of patriarchy, because I think our life is reflection of our perception, and sometimes
Yes.
the story we tell
Yes.
ourselves is what ends up manifesting, right? So were there some signs that maybe, I walked into a deposition and the male opposing counsel thought I was a court reporter, not the attorney? Sure, but my choice was never to take it personally and put myself into that victim situation or put women at large in a kind of victim situation. And so as a result, I don't really feel that my experience of being a female lawyer, even working at male dominated firms, was hindered me, in any way. I mean, maybe I had to prove myself a little bit more, but honestly, I have to say that most male attorneys that I have worked with have been very respectable of women and respectful in a sense that they recognize women as hard workers and as
Yeah.
somebody who's very, very capable.
No, I love that. And that's personally my story too. And I felt so aligned with you. I think the first time we talked, you had said that. And like the males in my life are the biggest cheerleaders. They're the freaking ones yelling the loudest. They're the ones that are like my hype men on it. And everyone's always like, well, you're a woman in tech. How does it feel? And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm at a disadvantage. I actually feel like I'm at an advantage. I'm blonde, tall. I walk into a room and I'm in tech. I do stand out. I think I do get advantage of it. And I love that you said the mindset because it's a mindset. If I want to be a victim, I could be, but I'm not. And I love and I surround myself with male counterparts that cheer me on and teach me different things, and female ones too. My female alignment is so strong in my life, but I do appreciate that. I think that's something that's so incredible about you. You talked about being a mom. How in the heck I'm not one. How do you balance being a mom and running a company?
We rise to the occasion, and whatever life throws at us, we have no choice but to do it. And as they say, if you want something done, give it to a busy person or give it to a busy mom. You just learn not just even, I would say, time management, but more of an energy management. The way I look at it is everything in my life is a choice, right? I'm not a mom or a wife or a business owner by default. I'm a mom, a business owner, a wife by choice. So if things get difficult or, I'm not sleeping and I'm getting pulled in all these different directions, I always have to remind myself I chose that.
Mm.
And would I rather have the alternative? Would I rather not have my children or my husband or my business? Absolutely not. And if I wanted to scale things down and have an easier life, I could, but I'm choosing to pursue things. I'm choosing to, I don't know, have my kids in, 6 different activities instead of one, which, obviously expands me both financially and energetically, but everything is a choice.
This is the most positive thing we've heard. It like gives you energy. And I think that's, surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded. What is the greatest lesson you've learned as being a business owner?
Oh my God, so many lessons.
Okay, let's do the greatest. Yeah. Like, what's the greatest lesson? And then what's the biggest mistake you've learned?
I think the biggest lesson is this is something that I've heard from Tony Robbins, and it really stayed with me, is don't wish for an easier life, wish for greater capacity to handle things. And I think there's so much wisdom in that, because sometimes actually that even comes to how I raise my children, or some conversations that I sometimes have with other moms, because sometimes other parents tell me, well, I don't want my child to be stressed out. I want them to have an easier life, right? And my response to that is, just because you align their circumstances in such a way that they seemingly have what we would perceive as easier life, doesn't mean that their life experience will be easy if they don't have capacity to handle challenges. I encounter people all the time that get rattled by the most minute things. Like they just get thrown off by the most inconsequential
Yeah.
things, because they've not cultivated that capacity to handle things, to deal with stress, to have confidence that they're able to handle whatever comes their way. And conversely, I see people that probably have more challenges and high stakes situations in 1 week that most of us would have in a lifetime. And they handle them with grace and poise and confidence. So it's not about having things easy. It's about being able to cultivate that capacity within yourself to handle that knowingness that whatever comes your way, you can handle it. I love that.
I think you're like the most positive I know, like having her be part of this most positive, and especially in today's world, I think, where we look for negative and you're just looking for the positive in every, like, I don't know, I'm feeling more refreshed. I'm like, wait, I have more questions. I know we're supposed to talk about what you do in law and how it helps, but it's one of those things of like finding the right people to align with and that have that energy. Okay. Greatest mistake you made as a business owner?
Greatest mistake, I would say, to try to earn my worth and validation through overwork. Trying to prove myself
Okay.
to people around me in general, right? From employers to colleagues to business partners, and kind of having that erroneous mindset that if I'm always there, if I sacrifice myself, if I over deliver, that will be recognized and reciprocated, when in reality, if you don't establish we train people how to treat us, and if we don't establish proper boundaries, people take advantage, and not necessarily inadvertently, but if you're always kind of bending over backwards for other people lose respect for you and tend to expect that from you, as opposed to thinking, oh, they'll appreciate me more for that. They'll see how hard I work. So I think maybe not always being able to establish those boundaries that maybe come with age, wisdom, experience. For somebody, maybe they're more innate. For the rest of us, we kind of have to learn them as we go through life.
No, she just told me this yesterday, literally yesterday on the phone. So I feel like it's a sign that I should probably be learning and maybe pay attention the first time. I love that about it. Okay. Talk a little bit about your practice and who do you help?
Okay. So I practice in the areas of employment law and trademarks. With employment law, my focus is entrepreneurs that are looking to get compliant with employment laws, although having handled Employee rights work for about 12 years. I still handle a fair share of employee rights cases as well. So for employees, it would be unpaid wages, unemployment discrimination, and wrongful termination. For employers, it will be compliance and defending them in court if they get sued by their employees. At this point, 14-ish years of experience with employment law, I've come to firmly believe that most employers want to do the right thing. They want to be compliant. Not everybody. I mean, I've seen repeat violators that we've had to sue, but for the most part, employers want to do the right thing. But as any entrepreneur, legal sometimes falls into the back burner. They think, I'll deal with it later. I'll hire counsel later. I'll get good advice later. And then oftentimes they don't realize how expensive those lawsuits can become, because even a few hours of unpaid overtime can turn into tens of thousands of dollars, because under the law you have liquidated damages, you have fee shifting provisions, meaning that the losing employer would have to be responsible for the prevailing employee's attorney's fees in addition to their own attorney's fees. So interesting. So my mission is to help well-meaning employers prevent those lawsuits, and if they cannot be prevented, I defend them in court. And I also help founders with brand protection through federal trademark registration. That's another thing that's often off the founder's radar, or maybe gets put on the back burner because they think, I'm going to trademark my brand when I'm bigger, when I'm more established, when I have the money. And so they will fall in love with the brand name they've come up with. Perhaps they've done a cursory Google search, a cursory USPTO search. They think there's no conflicts. And when they actually come to trademark attorney, maybe a couple of years later, and I or someone like me would do a comprehensive clearance search, we realize that there is a conflict. There is a substantially similar brand that already exists. So then the founder has to either rebrand or potentially not have trademark protection and potentially risk getting sued by the other brand for trademark infringement, which could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Let's break up your job into two different ones, because I think there's like so much to unpack on both of those. From the entrepreneur side, I'll let you talk about the trademark, but from the entrepreneur side, business owners are starting to get like what we call squishied. It's like, okay, accounting law, the taxes, okay, insurance, employees, and trying to balance it. How do you help a business owner or founder feel comfortable, like you said, to do these things and set them up correctly at first? Because there are well-meaning people, but they rapidly grow. They might have 0 employees and grow to like 20 employees within a few months. How do you help them, and how do you make it easy for them?
I think it's beneficial for any business owner to align themselves with an attorney, or maybe series of attorneys with relevant experience early on, because like with anything in life, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So you want to prevent problems before they occur, because not only it saves, time and headaches, but it also does save a lot of money. It's not the cost of a trademark is not, it's a couple $1,000s. It's not a ton of money, but an average cost of rebranding is about $30,000. And the average cost of defending yourself against an infringement lawsuit is in the 6 figures. Same goes for employment law violations. You could schedule, one 30-minute consultation with an attorney to have your questions answered about proper classification. How do you classify somebody as an employee versus independent contractor, exempt versus non-exempt? When do you have to pay them overtime? How to have proper anti-discrimination policies versus a lawsuit, could be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands easily. So I think not waiting to contact an attorney until the problem has already arisen.
It's like not going to a dentist until your teeth are falling out. Like it seems like you have to make it so easy, because if not, I think people are like scared to go to you. You're scared to go to an accountant before you're like, well, I can figure this out. Well, no, when you're in year 3 of your taxes that you need to go back and fix, it's way too late. So the same thing for an attorney, keeping them in a pattern of your growth. I love that you talked about the infringement, because as we do marketing, we've seen it so many times. Okay, we have to rebrand. Well, we already grew your brand. We have to change the name. We have to do all of these things. And they don't understand the impact, the rebranding costs, the marketing costs, the name, like SEO value,
Mhm.
all of
The
these
loss of
things.
customer loyalty and recognition.
Exactly.
Which is
And-
exactly
That doesn't fall behind a lawsuit. That because
Right.
someone else is upset that you're using what they're using.
Yeah.
And so people should reach out to you before they're doing that, because I think that's super important. And it's one of those things that we all just take for granted. And they're like, well, no, I did a quick Google search and no one else came up. And then
Exactly. Yeah, you think that you're fine because you go on sunbiz.org and no one else has that name, so you're fine.
yeah, why don't I need a lawyer? I have ChatGPT. And
Or so many people venture into do trademarks on their own, which sometimes they get lucky, but the lawyering part comes not in filling out the forms, right? The lawyering part comes into knowing with reasonable certainty whether the brand you're applying for federal registration for will get approved or not, and why. Is it too generic? Is it too descriptive? When I conduct a comprehensive clearance search, I don't just look for exact matches, because the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office looks at it from the perspective of the consumer. Is the consumer likely to get confused as to the origin of the goods and services? And so when I do a comprehensive clearance search, I look for similar or various spelling variations, plural versus singular, phonetic variations, similar connotations, maybe even different words that have the same commercial impression that could potentially cause the likelihood of confusion. And because trademark registration takes about a year, maybe 12 to 14 months, what often happens is somebody files for a trademark, they continue pumping money into a brand, marketing, promoting their products and services, and then 12 to 14 months later, they learn that the brand registration was denied, and then they will have wasted all this money, and then they have to start from scratch.
That was my question. How long did it take? Does it take generally?
Yeah, it takes about 8 months for an examining attorney at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office to even start looking at your application. So because of backlogs, the application will sit there for about 8 months. And then between 8 and 9 months, currently, somebody will actually pick it up and look at it and then determine what to do with it next.
So what is your suggestion then when someone is starting their business and it takes that long for your trademark to be approved, to be patent? Do we use our standard stuff that we're already working with, or?
So yeah, you don't have to have federal trademark registration to use your brand, and you can even use that TM symbol, which is kind of like informally putting a stake in the ground, saying I'm claiming this. But you can't use the circle R, and you can't prevent others from using your brand until and unless you have federal trademark registration. And even though registration takes, like I said, 12 months plus, the sooner you apply, the sooner you secure that priority date, because the USPTO will look at if somebody else files for something similar, the same or something similar, they'll look at the priority to see who filed first. And so that's one of the considerations. So the sooner the better. And ideally, before you're even in business, because you don't have to be selling your goods and services to apply for trademark registration. You can file what's called an intent to use application. And then once you're actually using them in commerce, you submit a statement of usage, and then you get that coveted circle R.
Very interesting.
I know, right? You're like, okay,
I know what we need.
we know a good person. Yeah, I think that's a really good sign on that. And I think that's, could I change my own oil in my car? Probably. Am I going to do it correctly? No. And is it going to lead to more mistakes? And sometimes, I used to cut my own grass. People were like, why are you doing this? As a business owner, bringing someone like that's you, an expert in, to take that burden off their plate, to know you, like you said, you've done it for 14 years, going back and forth and setting up a business successfully is going to be so much less headache. Okay, to flip into what is the thing that you wish you would have done differently in your business starting off? So since you're an expert in one area, what is something that you wish you would have done different in your business?
Oh my God, again, so much, right? I don't think there's anything that prompts as much personal development and personal and spiritual even growth as entrepreneurship. But I would say mindset is so much more important than anything else, because tactics, techniques, there's an abundance of information. It's kind of like with weight loss, right? Like if people didn't know how to lose weight, everybody knows how to lose weight, right? But not everybody's skinny. It's not the lack of knowledge. It's something having to do with our mindset, our psychology, our ability to follow through. And mindset related, I would say it's giving yourself the permission to succeed. because again, often a lot comes to what we allow ourselves to have, what we think we need to earn, what we think our worth is, because you can't have what you don't already have on some level. So if you don't believe with every cell of your body that you can have what it is that you're trying for.
Oh, she's just dropping truth bombs over here the whole time. I think that's so. How do you prevent burnout? Have you ever been burned out? First is the question, because you seem so positive. Have you ever been burned out, and how do you prevent it?
I think burnout is, I think the word burnout is often kind of mixed up a little bit with general exhaustion, right? Because yes, you can be tired, you can work hard, you can have sleepless nights, but burnout is more of a psychological, as in I'm ready to throw in the towel because I'm not on the right path and what I'm doing is not aligned. So when you are doing what is aligned with you and on some level, I mean, you don't have to love every minute of it, but on some level, it has to be an extension of you and an expression of you. Then exhaustion does not lead to burnout. You can work late nights. You can make sacrifices. You can dedicate your weekends to your business, and it's still not what I would call burnout because you're still mission driven, and your business still excites you, right? Burnout, I think, is an indication that something is not aligned and you're not on the right path, and that's when you need to reevaluate, maybe making major changes in your life and your business, to get back into alignment.
So you've talked about diet, and you said physical, and you said spiritual, and you said mental. What are the areas that you make sure you're right before going into that business every day?
I think energy management is very important. Always making sure you're in the right state of mind, and also taking care of yourself. I mean, I'll admit that I make certain sacrifices that I probably shouldn't be making. Like I often operate on very few hours of sleep. It's kind of like my downfall, and I'm working in it. But in general, I always make time for fitness. Like I'm a second degree black belt in Taekwondo. I play in Sukai leagues. I find, I do yoga. Like I always find time to take care of my physical body. I eat exceptionally well. I love to cook. I've been vegan since 1998. Not that, this is the only right way to eat, but for me, this is my way of taking care of my body and what feels aligned with me. So,
So when are we being invited for dinner?
I know, right? Like, how do we get a dinner invite to this? Because now, I mean, and what are your favorite meals? Because you are Russian, so like, what are your favorite meals? What do you don't cook anything?
My favorite meals aren't really Russian.
Really? Okay. What are your favorite meals to eat? When can Ninette and I come over for dinner? No, wait, do we invite ourselves? I think it's so.
Dinner invitations coming, but the point I'm trying to make is we have to manage our energy, and self-care is so important, right? And self-care doesn't necessarily mean spending hours at the spa or going vacations. I mean, it's amazing if you could have that, but it could be something as simple as squeezing in a 15-minute workout at home and making yourself a very basic, healthy, organic meal. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be time consuming, but I think it's also like it becomes at some point a matter of self-respect. Like if you value yourself, you don't put junk in your body. You don't ignore your physical body. You feel grateful to your body for being able to function and do all these things and allow you to enjoy life.
Okay, if you could tell younger you something, what advice would you give younger you?
I would say being in the mindset of taking full and complete responsibility for your life. Because nothing ever good comes out of falling into victim mentality and thinking that somebody did us wrong or we're a victim of circumstances, because it's extremely disempowering. And I think to some extent or another, probably all of us have tendencies at one time or another to fall into that, because self-pitying can feel very comforting, but pulling yourself out of that place and realizing that we have full control of our lives, and we're not going to give away that power to somebody who might have betrayed us, did something to us,
Absolutely.
treated us unfairly. And I think that anytime I fall and just even looking back into my life, before all this mindset work that I've done on myself, anytime I've been in a bad place mentally, it's because I have given away my power and has blamed somebody else for something negative that was going on in my life. The moment I take that personal responsibility, it's like it instantly elevates you, because then you realize, okay, nobody and nothing can impact my experience of my life without my permission.
Well, this has been the most encouraging one possible. Okay, how do people find you? How do they find you? How do they connect with you? And how do they hire you?
Okay, sure. My website is Carpe Diem lawfirm.com, Carpe Diem lawfirm.com. On Instagram, I am Carpe Diem Lawyer. And all of my social media links and my contact information is on my website.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank
This
you
was
so much.
Fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
feel like so much happier. I think this is great for the rest of the day. So thank you for coming. We've been honored to have you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for giving us so much information.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, guys.